Greetings, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Mistake Zone, your weekly dose of our lives and the mistakes within them. My name is Jaren Wade. Joining me, as always, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Matt Alba. Hey, Matt.
Yo.
How are you doing?
Yo, I'm feeling spooked.
Matt,
Uh-huh.
it's Halloween weekend, and that means, unfortunately for the kids, trick-or-treating takes place in 2 days, which is a Tuesday evening.
Yes.
And are you ready to give out some treats this Halloween, Matt Alba?
No, I am not, Jared. It really is gonna depend on if good old Amazon is sending out like the big packs of candy.
All right. Do you have them ordered, Matt? Or
No, Jared. Gonna do
okay.
it tonight probably.
Man, we currently have two boxes of, I believe their contents are normal M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, Snickers, Twix, and Mars bars.
Oh,
Matt,
nice. Mm-hmm.
do you know which candy kids are getting on Halloween evening from this household?
I'm assuming Mars bars.
Plain M&Ms, Matt.
Oh wait, I thought you said peanut M&Ms, or did you say both of them?
Oh no, it comes with plain M&Ms and peanut M&Ms.
Oh, true. Yo, you know what? I feel that.
Matt, when you distribute Halloween candy to the children, this is for the kids. But come on, Matt, do you prioritize which candy you give out on Halloween?
I don't really prioritize which candy I give out on Halloween, Sharon. But what I do is, when I'm getting up, I'm gonna go to the door, I'm gonna give these kids some candy. I'll give them some candy, while I'm up here by the candy bowl, I'm gonna take one of my favorite candies out of the bowl, and that's gonna be one less candy for the kids.
Matt, since you're doing your Halloween candy shopping, probably after we record this episode, Matt, what do you lean towards? What's on the Matt Alba Saturday Morning Arcade Clubhouse menu for the children this week?
Jaren, when I usually go for the Halloween candy, it's usually, I think, that same box that you got with like the Snickers and the peanut M&Ms in it, or I get the ones that's the gummy variety, like the Fuzzy
Right.
Peaches, Sour Patch Kids, like those that box. It really depends on what I find first and what's cheaper.
I know there's a box that usually comes with Hershey's cookies and cream. I believe so it's a mix of chocolate and gummies, or at least Jolly Ranchers. Matt, what do you think of the blending in a Halloween box of chocolate and gummies?
I think that's okay. Like I think that's the one you get when you kind of just want to give out candy without really caring about what you're gonna get or what you're gonna eat out of that box.
Point taken. But we're in the Halloween spirit, Matt, here on Spooky Morning Arcade. And I feel like we should have planned the spooky episode a bit better. But before we get into some video games that we played this week, Matt,
Yes,
what's up? How's your week of mistakes?
Jaren, I realize that I've been making a mistake basically my whole life
Okay.
with
A lifelong mistake.
a
if you will.
lifelong mistake / misunderstanding, Jaren. And I feel like it's really been because everybody I talked about this to either already knew that this was or they also found out that this was a thing like kind of recently as well. And Jaren, have you run into the whole kind of talk on the internet about how vampires work?
I have not, or at least not recently.
Okay, Jaren, the misunderstanding that I've had this whole time is about how vampires suck blood.
Okay.
Jaren, the misunderstanding that I had is that I thought the vampire fangs, you pierce into the person's neck with the fangs, and then the fangs are like a straw, and they suck blood up through the teeth. That's how I thought that worked.
Okay. Fair
And
enough.
apparently that's
I mean,
wrong.
I can see how you get there, and I think growing up, that was always my conception of vampires as well, that the teeth were in fact straws. And it wasn't until I I believe it was through literature in a book I forget which one at the time, but it was that was a real defining moment of my life, Matt, when I realized, oh, the teeth aren't straws. They're just,
Just
fangs.
they're just can openers. Jaren, I
Yeah,
don't like it. I don't
really.
because because the way to describe or the accurate way is that the fangs pierce into someone's neck and then they kind of just suck up the blood as it flows out with just their normal mouth. And Jaren, I don't like the image of that because when I think about doing that, I just think of myself spilling soup on a table and then just sucking it up because I don't want to waste it. And I feel like that's not the image that a vampire should have.
I think for me, what I really wrestled with was the imagery of, at least with fang teeth, you just bite into the neck, and from there your teeth, work as straws, and it's one quick motion. But the fact that you have to, since your teeth is the can opener, as you said,
Yeah.
to me at least, that's more work where first you have to pierce, but then you have to reposition to get a good, to better align yourself on the neck for you to more efficiently suck out said blood. But at the same time, that seems like too much work, Matt. And yeah, I thought growing up that vampires' teeth, were straws. So, Matt, I relate. I relate to your epiphany this week in terms of our blood sucking friends. And I feel like by bringing this up and sharing it with our friends who are listening, you may have also crushed the dreams or told people that Santa Claus isn't real, or the same equivalent this week on the Mistake Zone. Matt, do we need to put a spoiler warning for vampires for this episode?
No, Joe, no. This is, I guess this is just facts.
Okay, that's fine, Matt. Matt, I feel like we grew up. We grew up this episode so far, and we're better off for it now that we have a better understanding of how the vampire world works.
Jaren, there's a second vampire related Tumblr post that I've been seeing. Not lately, but it's a pretty old one where they're talking about how I think it's coconut water can be used as a temporary measure for when you don't have blood for a blood transfusion.
Really? Okay.
And someone brought up the concept of, oh, you can have vegan vampires now. And I think that's a good goof. And I hope that, in this kind of nebulous world where Jaron, I don't know if you heard this rumor, but I heard Vampires the Masquerade 2 is maybe actually getting worked on again. And
Yeah.
I hope that they show up.
Actually, Matt, this was something that we didn't really get to discuss a few months back. And when I say a few months back, I think it was back in September. But
Okay.
I guess now that you brought up the topic of vampires and now Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and that game's rocky development, just development road. But it was announced in September, actually, that the game is once again in production, but this time it has a new studio. And in September, the publisher Paradox Interactive announced that the Chinese room would be taking over development for the game. And that developer might ring some bells because they were behind Dear Esther. They did the sequel to Amnesia with Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs. And they've released a few other... What's up?
Oh no! I mean, Jared, I think Amnesia was just one of those games that I never finished when it came out because I was too spooked, and I don't want Bloodlines to be too spooky for me.
I'm actually really curious to see how the Chinese room ends up handling, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, because for all intents and purposes, Vampires the Masquerade Bloodlines, the original game that came out way back when, was hailed to be this big narrative, not necessarily narrative cult classic. And when you have a resume that does have Dear Esther Amnesia, not the original Amnesia, but A Machine for Pigs, you have these games that do follow more of the, we joke about the genre, but the walking sim. And
Uh-huh.
for them to take on something that, at least on paper, should be a lot more mechanics heavy, with dialogue choices, combat, branching paths, I'm really curious just to see how they tackle it, just because from what I've originally seen and played from the Chinese room, that's not necessarily in the wheelhouse that I'm expecting of them. And of course, with a project like that, when you have such a cult following, I also expect a lot of pressure and eyes to be on this release eventually, just because Bloodlines 2, the production so far has been a mess. I know we all say that you shouldn't pre-order video games, and I do remember that I pre-ordered Bloodlines 2 way back when as well,
Oh man.
mostly because I found the whatever super collector or super duper version to be notably discounted, so I had to do the pre-order. And when they announced that, hey, it's going to be delayed for now, we're refunding everyone, I took that opportunity to do so. But yeah, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 announced in September. It's still in the works. And I know Paradox Interactive have released, I believe, since the announcement, 3 blog posts just kind of discussing who the studio is, the narrative atmosphere and themes, and the neo noir art style that they're trying to go for. So, from what I remember, no actual gameplay or trailers have been, shared. And if the studio was only announced back in September, I'm not sure, how much work they've already put into this game. So I'm not even sure when we're supposed to expect this. And I'm really curious just to see what how it looks, how it turns out. But I think right now the release window is Q4 2024. I think when you say something is Q4 24, I still
Uh-huh.
think that's like a ways. Not this game in particular is kind of a ways off,
Do you
but
think it makes 2024, Jaren? Like,
I honestly don't think this makes
okay,
2024.
yeah, same, same.
Again, especially when you've only announced that it's coming back, you have to wonder how
Mm-hmm.
much of the original Bloodlines 2 are they lifting from, how much has to be started from scratch. Again, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a developer, Matt, but I feel like with something like this, a lot of people are looking forward to that first initial trailer just to see what they're working with, and of course how the gameplay will pan out,
Mm-hmm.
because again, this is such a it's a game that has a dedicated following, and with the mishaps that have plagued the game so far, pretty much any goodwill has been slashed. But a lot of
Yeah.
people are curious, me included. Again, that Vampire the Masquerade, at least the pen and paper version, is something that means a lot to Saturday Morning Arcade.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those memories in particular is reason enough for me to kind of keep my eye out on anything from Bloodlines 2 that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I know trying to go back to the original Bloodlines isn't the easiest thing, and you also have to consider how much of it just holds up in general in
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
And I know there was a few pushes to kind of revive the vampires moniker. Uh, I believe there was that Swan Song game that I didn't necessarily play. Wasn't there also a battle royale game, if I'm not mistaken, Blood Hunt, which probably shut down. Or I'm pretty sure Blood Hunt shut down, Matt.
Oh, I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, the game was announced in 2020 with a teaser trailer. The full game was released on April 27th, 2022, and is currently free to play. I wonder if I thought the game was shutting down, but I could be mistaken. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, if I got that in wrong. But Yeah, Matt. Nope. I'm looking at their Twitter or their X right now, and they have a
Jared, I don't like it when people call Twitter X.
yeah, yeah. But hey, if
Uh,
you watch some Blood Hunt on Twitch, there are some Twitch drops at the very least, Matt.
I'm looking at the Steam DB page, and there are 663 people in game right now.
Hey, that's not bad. Depending on how many people you need in your battle royale lobby, that's 6 full games, Matt. That's 6 full games. Matt, this would be the time where I say, hey, I'm going to check out Bloodlines. I'm sorry, Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt for next week. But Matt,
Uh huh.
I'm probably not.
Nope.
But
Uh huh.
there have been some new video games to come out this week, or at least new to the Xbox Game Pass service. And I think we both are bringing something to the table this week, Matt. And since we're in the Halloween spooky season right now, one game I've been playing isn't necessarily spooky per se, Matt, but there are some folklore elements which isn't necessarily one and the same, but sort of adjacent. And Matt, I'm talking about Mineko's Night Market. Matt, this game originally came out a month ago, I believe, on the 26th of September. And I think a month later, it came out on Xbox Game Pass. And that's where I'm playing it right now, specifically on the PC. And this was something I discussed way back during, I think, one of the earlier Steam Next Fests here when we were kind of breaking down what demos we were playing on the Mistake Zone. But when it finally came to Game Pass, I put in several hours into the game, and I think my first takeaway from my time with Mineko's Night Market is I really do think that I would prefer playing this on the Steam Deck, just because, Matt, Mineko's Night Market is a cozy game. It's a lovely game, and it does have its charm to it. But I think it's adjacent to, well, it takes elements that I'm used to from Animal Crossing or farming sims. And when you have games that sort of run on routine, I think that for me personally, those types of games work better. Oh, I can play a few days in bed or before bed, and then turn it off for the night and go to bed. And when you're playing it in front of your monitor on your TV in your living room, I think it sort of becomes a more routine experience. And I think that's where the flaws start showing, if that makes sense. Where I believe Mineko's Night Market works best in bite-sized chunks. But if you're like me, when you're playing it in a living room in front of your monitor, you're committing to a game. And when you kind of commit too hard to Mineko's Night Market, you can kind of start to see where it falls short, especially when compared to its peers within the same genre. But before I get ahead of myself, Matt, Mineko's Night Market is, again, in the same vein as those social farming sims that have become a growing trend in the last couple of years. You play as this girl named Mineko who moves into this small village with her father. And again, Matt, I said this game is really charming. It's a lovely experience with a cast of characters who are written in that childhood innocence way, something similar to, I'm not sure if you played the game Adventure Pals, Matt, but it's that, somewhat innocent but tongue-in-cheek kind of writing where, say, one of the first friends that she meets in the village is named Bob or Bobo. And when he meets you, you'd say your name's Mineko, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna call you Minix because it's shorter." And it's kind of tongue in cheek in that way. You meet Bobo's mom, whose name is Bobo's mom, and she cracks wise up. I'm really glad I had a son named Bobo, and it's written in that regard. But the whole gameplay loop of the game is it goes on a day by day cycle where You wake up, you go around harvesting or collecting a lot of materials. You have a stamina system as well, where each time you cut down a tree or pick a flower or pick up a cat hairball, that takes a bit of stamina. And of course, you can recharge stamina buying items. But essentially, you spend your day harvesting materials, you go around talking to the various villagers, you fulfill their requests to unlock more recipes for you to craft. And at the end of the week, every Saturday evening, the village has a night market where you have your own booth. And essentially, you get to sell anything that you find or you craft throughout the week. And when you sell during the night market, you'll get a line of several village people who will, view your wares and say, oh, I want to buy this, or not really my style. And each night market has a theme that you can kind of build towards to really help your chances of people buying. And I think another fun part about the night market portion is that when someone shows interest in buying one of your items, you can tell them how much you are selling it for. And essentially you have a wheel menu that opens up with all of these different prices. Scaling from light green that says, oh, this is a really low price, to dark red of, hey, you're really asking for a lot. And depending on how much you try to sell that item for, villagers can try to haggle where, oh, that might be too much. Can you do this? And then you can do a back and forth of, sure, I can do that. Maybe we can meet in the middle, or no, I'm going to stand firm there. So at the end of each night market, you get your total earnings, and that kind of contributes to a meter. Just because, Matt, tell me if you heard this before. The village isn't doing too great financially. Everyone's kind of moving out, and the night market isn't as bustling as it used to be. But the more you sell, the more essentially night market XP the night market gets. And then soon, as you level up, you get more vendors, you get the night market itself cleaned up. And so you're really trying to not only get the night market more, bustling, but in turn getting the village more appealing to outsiders as well. To the point where after, I believe, the first 3 weeks of night markets, that's when the town will open up. You'll have visitors coming to the town, and from there you can even invite visitors to move to the island itself.
Oh man.
And that's kind of the gameplay loop, or the main night market loop. The actual story is the fact that it ties to Japanese folklore, or at least it's presenting folklore in the sense that there used to be this mystical cat, Nico, and he used to bring, fortune to farmers, but then other farmers said, hey, that's not fair, and chased Nico away. So you're trying to, there's a little not necessarily the side story, but the main story is, as Mineko and Bobo, you're trying to find out who Nico is, and you kind of see that, oh, there are random agents sprinkled around the island as well who are also looking for someone or something, and in turn capturing all the cats, where every time you go to a new harvesting area, you have to kind of stealth your way through a bunch of agents, free all the cats in the cages, which in turn make all the agents leave for various reasons. But that's kind of the duality of the narrative and kind of the gameplay loop of Mineko's Night Market. But as I said, Matt, it runs on a day cycle where even though you have a stamina system, every time you go to a harvest area, that will push it to, say, the afternoon or to the evening.
Oh, I see.
So you do have some time mechanics there, but at the same time, you'll have your stamina system that really slows down how much you can actually do. And in terms of actually harvesting, so you can pick flowers, that's just pretty easy. Then you can get paper, cut down trees, which has kind of the mini game kind of resembles like a golf game where you're kind of managing a power meter. And fishing is your typical, hey, we're going to cast a fish when the ball goes to underwater, press A. So it's a really basic stuff for that. But At the same time, it's a really slow start where when you're first establishing your crafting benches, because at first you're only giving a flower bench, so you can only do like bouquets or whatnot. And even then, you only have access to three different flowers. So it's a slow start because you want to unlock, oh, I need a wood crafting bench, I need a paper crafting bench, I need a sewing table. And at the same time, a lot of the beginning of the game is you gathering three different flowers for two recipes that you can really do, or collecting cat hairballs for you to sell for chump change, just because, Matt, your hairballs aren't going to sell during the night market. Little hot tip, little hot tip. But yeah, it's really slow in the beginning, and I feel like it didn't, even with 3 weeks under, or three night markets under my belt, I think now the game is really opening up, because
Oh
now
damn.
the night market is kind of popular enough to get more visitors coming in. And that's when the inviting people to your island comes in. And now I have a bunch of different crafting tables. I have a lot more recipes opening up and a lot more materials that I can gather. So I think that's where the shame comes in, where it took me several hours to kind of get into a space where really feel like the game is kind of open in that regard. But in another thing that really got to me, Matt, is some of the UI stuff also isn't the best.
Uh
I think what I noticed immediately was, I'm not sure why the B button doesn't immediately close your menu.
oh, ew.
Yeah, it's one of those, hey, when you pause or when you go to anything, you have to actually scroll down to select
Oh,
close to actually go back into the game. And Matt, that's rough. That's really
Jared, that's
rough.
awful. Oh my god.
When it comes to crafting, there's no multi-craft option. You have to kind of do everything one at a time, and then each crafting, depending on if it's paper, if it's wood, or if it's flowers, they have their own little mini game attached to it.
Uh
Which is also a bit annoying when you collect materials for the whole week, and then I like to stack everything to, or do all my crafting before the night market starts. So that's also kind of a bummer as well.
damn.
And Matt, for a game that a portion of it revolves around meeting town people, getting their requests, and kind of hearing their funny banter. One, it isn't really as deep as something you would expect from, say, an Animal Crossing, where when you talk to a new person, they'll say a funny quip and then tell you what they need, nothing really else.
I see.
Where you only get any additional dialogue through the form of anything that progresses the story. But in terms of the town people's requests, they'll say, "Oh, I would like X item. I would like, this many of Y." However, the game doesn't actually keep track of what they currently want anywhere. Even though you go into your journal,
Oh.
you can see all the townspeople that you meet,
Uh-huh.
your current social level with them, which is depicted by us like 5 hearts. You don't actually know what they want until you have to talk to them. So you can't really interact with them. You don't see profiles. You don't see their current wants. Where,
Oh damn, that's
Matt, I had to open up my friend Excel Coon to make my own Excel file or spreadsheet to show what each
oh
of the
man.
current town people they and what they currently want for my mission as
Jaren, is
well.
this the Elden Ring of Animal Crossing games?
Uh, I don't want to. I wish it was, Matt, just because I know I poo poo on a lot of games, but I
Uh-huh.
really do like Mineko's Night Market in bite-sized pieces. That's why I think I would really prefer this playing on the Switch, playing on the Steam Deck, where I can just do it just a day, gather my materials, clock out for the day and kind of be good with it. Where I think just playing it really is a good podcast game in that regards. Just doing a bunch of mundane tasks while listening to a podcast, just because there isn't really much story from what I've seen so far, other than searching for the Nico cat. But other than that, I think a testament to how charming I find the writing is the amount of screenshots I've been sending you
Yes.
throughout the week, where it's kind of that in that style, Matt, where it's a lovely game overall. I really like its atmosphere, but at the same time, it can be really mundane. It can be really routine. There are some decisions that I don't really agree with, but I think it has its charm. I think it has heart. But Matt, I have a question for you.
Okay.
With Mineko's Night Market, it's one of those games that it only saves at the end of the day, where if you quit out before, Mineko wakes up after dreaming about saving a game, you'll lose all of that progress in between.
Oh no.
And in terms of when it comes to a farming sim or like a crafting sim or a social sim like this, what do you think of that end of day saving?
I think that you playing it on PC makes that the absolute worst it could be. Like just thinking about even playing it on like Switch, playing it on what do you call it? The Steam Deck. Even I don't even know if this game is on like Xbox or PlayStation, but
Oh yeah, it is.
all of those have like a suspend function, which I'm guessing that you don't have in the like PC version of this game.
I mean, I can alt tab if I wanted to, but that just runs out. That runs up my playtime, Matt, and that feels dishonest.
Yeah, like I think that I don't like that option, especially if there isn't something like a save and immediately quit option so that you can get out
Right.
like midday. I don't know.
And I think where I am at the game right now is there's a bunch of story stuff happening right away where I kind of wish it checkpointed you at least, oh, I finished this story section or I finished stealthing through this new area to get all the agents to leave. I wish it kind of saved them just because, again, it's me committing, okay, I need to play out this whole entire day. That means I need to spend all my stamina, regardless of anything I want to do. And yeah, I think that's another bummer where it makes sense in this type of game. But I guess just in terms of my preference, I don't actually like that end of day saving. It makes sense, but not for me. And yeah, in all, again, Mineko's Night Market, it has heart, it has charm. And if you're really into kind of that tongue in cheek writing, again, it's one of those things like the type of writing to expect is, oh, your dad calls you Pumpkinhead in an endearing way, or like a different naming convention. And at one point he says, oh, you should go around to reintroduce yourself to the town because I think everyone thinks your name is Pumpkinhead.
Nice.
So if you're kind of into that type of writing, it might be for you, but I think you need to know what you're getting into. And as much as it has that charm, I don't think on a gameplay or mechanical level it compares to a Stardew. It compares to an Animal Crossing. But if this seems like something you would be into, I think you should definitely check it out. I think another one of my personal flaws, Matt, is every time I go into an area with cats, I have to pet every cat I see, Matt.
Man.
And I've pet a lot of cats.
Yeah.
Another thing, Matt, one more thing that throws me off about this game is, of course, there's like dye is crafting material for stuff you want to build. And to get dye, Matt, you have to go fishing. You have to catch, a blue trout or a red snapper all these different colored fish. But then you have to go into your menu, select the fish, and press squeeze to squeeze out dye from the fish. And that kind of awful because one, again, say I have 5 rainbow fish. I can't just select rainbow fish, squeeze, and then do 5. Matt, have to go one by one to squeeze each individual fish, and then go to the fish vendor to sell my squeezed fish for $1 a piece, and it doesn't feel great, Matt. Doesn't feel great.
There's a lot of like awful words that you had in the sentence right there.
But Mineko's Night Market, again, I think I've called this game charming like several times now, which I personally find charming, but it does have its faults. And I think this does make a good Game Pass game to at least try. But again, I think it works better on a portable, whether it be a Steam Deck, your Switch, just something to do before bed, because there were instances where I was playing in front of the PC where I thought, oh, this isn't this isn't the greatest. But at least, Matt, you have Mineko and her friend Bobo, and Matt, that's all you really need, friends, right? Friends to make everything better. But I do wish it held up mechanically, but it also made me want to replay Adventure Pals, which I probably will do just because they do have similar writing but yeah, Mineko's Night Market, check it out on Game Pass, also available on the Switch, the PlayStation, the Xbox, and Steam. So Matt, speaking about Game Pass, there was another new Game Pass release, I believe this week, that you also checked out.
Yes.
And that was a sequel to, I think, a game you talked really highly in previous, I believe, instances of Saturday Morning Arcade. But Matt, tell me about is it City Skylines 2?
Yes, City Skylines 2 has just released, I think it was on the Tuesday of this past week. And that game released to a very, very rough amount of rough sounding reviews.
Matt, is this the Payday 3 of city builders?
This is, I think calling it a Payday 3 is a bit extreme. I also don't want to call it a Cyberpunk, because the Cyberpunk also seems a bit... I think a Cyberpunk is worse than a Payday 3.
Okay.
I think it's maybe like... It's like half a Payday 3 in terms of bad.
Really? But
yes,
as something that was, critically acclaimed, had its fair share of fans, a big community behind it. Matt, why hasn't City Skylines 2 reached the heights that its predecessor has?
Jaren, looking at it from a technical point of view, City Skylines 2 is kind of a mess. Because there are certain options that you need to disable within a game to make it run reasonable. And if you don't know that going in, you are going to have maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes of playtime of this game, because you're going to open it, you're going to see how much input lag there is in this game, and then just exit it.
Oh, no.
Jaren, I don't think I've seen input lag this bad in a decade. And that's against an older PC of mine trying to run some crazy game.
Right.
There is legitimately, I'd say, 3/4 of a second between your movement and what you're doing on screen. And apparently, a lot of that's being driven by depth of field and volumetric lighting. So if you disable those within the City Skylines options, it returns it to just kind of a normal input rate, or it feels a lot more 1-to-1 at that point.
Okay. That also seems pretty rough.
And I'm pretty sure, Jaren, that this game isn't reaching over 30 frames per second, which for I think a lot of people, that's maybe an issue. For me, I'm not so bothered by that, but I can see why a lot of people are bothered by that.
Right. Okay. Not great, Matt. But technical issues aside, okay, let's try to think of some positives at the very least. But since this is a sequel to City Skylines 1, obviously,
yes.
What improvements have they tried to implement, and is it something that you were looking forward to in a sequel?
Jaren, I think that if you were a new player coming into City Skylines, the technical problems aside, I think that this is a much better experience in terms of easing you into the genre.
Okay.
Starting from a kind of new city at the menu where you can kind of choose where you want to build, you're given a lot more information about what is on the kind of city, or not the city, the like map that you're building on. Like, what kind of resources are available, what kind of connections to the outside world are available, the weather and stuff like that for this particular map. And I think that that's like very nice to have now, because they transitioned to having numbers now instead of bars, which I really really like when games decide to do that, because I've never really been a fan of that kind of like loose bar system where like, oh yeah, there's like this many on us, like just a bar graph of how many resources you can get on this area, instead of saying, oh, like this map has 25 tons of
Yeah.
like oil that you can extract or whatever.
Okay.
And even within the gameplay itself, I think it does a much, much better job of kind of explaining everything to you. Because I did turn on the tutorials just to see like what's going on in this game, to see if there's any like new stuff that they're showing you. And it does a much better job, I think, of explaining everything to you
Okay.
and kind of easing you, because when you start a new town, unless you select an option for it, you don't have every single thing unlocked. Like, you won't have access to schools or police or firefighters and stuff like that at the very start. And the game won't like set things on fire until you have access to firefighters and stuff like that. So I think the kind of rate that they give you new options, the rate that you get new options, and the fact that every single time your city kind of levels up, you're given a lot more choice in regards on like how you want to do it. Because a new thing that they introduced for City Skylines 2 is it's kind of like the optional, it's like they introduce an upgrade tree in essence,
Okay.
where before you would kind of just, you'd level your city up, and then you'd get a whole bunch of options unlocked for you, and you kind of, had to spend time kind of reading through everything. But now they've kind of locked a lot of the complicated stuff behind skill trees, so that now that you can kind of just traverse through nodes, so that you have a much better idea of what you're unlocking as a newer player.
Okay. That actually sounds like a good quality of life change.
And in addition, like the base game itself feels a lot better. The base game feels like like a fully modded, to me, version of City Skylines 1.
Oh,
It has
okay.
all the quality of life stuff that I wanted, or that I had to like get modded in myself. It has better traffic. It has like ways for you to drop, what are they called, Jaren? The kind of the circle things instead of intersections, roundabouts. It lets you
Right.
like drop roundabouts without having to tear up the whole intersection. It kind of gives you kind of better buildings in terms of like what you can build, because like before it was kind of just like, oh, you can get normal residential, medium, or high density residential, but now you have access to things with like buildings that have stores on the bottom, so you can fill two at once in terms of space. They have tools that let you kind of build two roads parallel to each other for
Oh, nice, nice,
better
nice.
aesthetics.
Yeah.
Or and it is a lot better about upgrading roads, because there was a function in City Skylines 1 where you can take a road, you can like select a different road type and just kind of plop it, or select like a section of road and upgrade it to the other road type. But when you did that, it kind of broke a lot of things, and they've just made it a lot more streamlined in City Skylines 2. And I don't know, I think it just like feels a lot better. I also feel like one of the things I really really like doing within City Skylines, or even SimCity, or any kind of games within this genre, is setting up public transport. And I feel like they've done it a lot smoother in City Skylines 2, and you can customize it a lot better.
Okay.
And I don't know, like Jaren, I I think I brought this problem up before like this came out when you were talking about the games you were looking forward to this year. In that, I think that if I bought City Skylines 2 on Steam instead of playing it on Game Pass, I might have been a bit more disappointed because, like I just said, City Skyline 2's base experience for me is basically where I modded City Skylines 1 to be.
Yeah.
And it honestly, like, other than a few changes to, like, hey, how you move around electricity, how you build certain types of industry, for the most part, I would say the game is very much the same. I think that if you were to, blindly put this in front of a person who didn't know City Skylines 2 existed but knew City Skylines 1 existed, they might not know it's like a new game.
Right. Oh, okay.
But like I don't know, like Jaren, I enjoy the gameplay loop. I think City Skylines 2 up until a certain point is doing a good job. And I don't know, I'm having fun with it. I think that if you have access to Game Pass, this is definitely a really good experience to go through. And I am personally like I think I only have like 12 hours of playtime in this, but I'm still having a lot of fun with it.
In terms of the technical shortcomings that it's currently experiencing, has the game received, any notable patches since you've started playing, or has there been a roadmap or anything that players are looking forward to once, or just to upcoming fixes?
I don't believe there's been any updates yet. As far as roadmaps go, I think the closest thing I've seen to that is that the devs for City Skylines 2 kind of did an AMA on Reddit, and they kind of did go into discussing like, oh yeah, we are aware like of these like issues with the game, and like we're going to be working on it within like these first few weeks.
Right.
So I don't really think there's any like hard dates in regards to City Skylines, like getting a lot of fixes.
Okay.
And I really do hope that it does get the fixes because, Jaren, where I am now in my town, I'm starting to hit that technical issue again.
Really?
Where, yeah, like kind of a noted thing within the community of City Skylines 2 right now is that when you start a new game, it feels fine. But as your city grows and grows,
Right.
you start to feel the slowdown come back because of like how it's kind of simulating, I guess, like all the citizens of your city. And unfortunately, I'm starting to notice the slowdown happening more and more often. It's not to the point where it's like really hindering my enjoyment of it, but it's to the point where I'm like, oh, it's like hanging here for a second. I just gotta, just like wait it out a bit.
Right.
But
Okay.
I don't know. I really do hope that this gets fixed soon, and I don't know. I do like yeah, like I just really hope it gets fixed soon because Jaren, there's this is gonna be like a really dumb thing, Jaren. But one of the things that they introduced within City Skylines 2 is the ability to kind of select a theme for your town. And right now, they only have North American style buildings or European style buildings. Jared, I know 100% they're going to make the DLC for Japan, and I am going to bite on that DLC, and I'm going to buy it. And I don't know. I'm debating, Jared, on if I want to switch over to Steam at that point because just Xbox doesn't have access to workshop stuff. Like I'm sure you can mod it in through maybe like Nexus mods, but the availability of the Steam Workshop is maybe just a bit too compelling for me.
Right.
That once a sale comes out, I might go that way.
Considering your time with the original City Skylines and now playing through the sequel, and you said that with it has a lot of kind of feel that this is a modded version of the original. For the sequel, what kind of mods are you looking forward to just be available that you would want to implement?
I think for me, it's mostly restriction based stuff. Like for example, Jaren, I build kind of highway to road exits and stuff. I'm not good at making that look pretty.
Right.
It looks like a nightmare, Jaren. And I'm looking forward to the point where like I can remove some of the for me slope restrictions because I want to be able to tuck my roads underneath the earth so I don't have to have like, 4 floor kind of just roads in the sky so that these people can get onto the highway so that I can fix my my traffic problems within a particular area. But I don't know. I think that for me it's going to be for the most part a lot of quality of life, and after like my quality of life is satisfied, it's going to be I think custom buildings because I don't know, Jaren. I think two of my favorite City Skyline one modded buildings is one being able to just drop a huge Uniqlo somewhere and being able to drop the Akihabara Yodobashi camera in
Of
like the
course,
middle of my
Matt.
town. Jared, I love seeing that. Like whenever I got to a point in the city, in City Skylines 1 where I could just put the Yodobashi camera down, oh man, it was a good time.
Matt, sounds like a good time, and hopefully those good times are coming to you soon. But yeah, City Skylines 2 now available. Check it out. So right now, if you have access, your recommendation is to check it out on Game Pass just to see if it is kind of your jam.
I think you should like check it out, see if it's your jam, and see how it runs for you because like that is right now a thing you have to worry about.
Oh man, it's kind of unfortunate too, Matt, where there have, I feel like more often than not, a lot of these anticipated games to certain gaming subsections, are being hit with really rocky launches and rocky starts. And Matt, that's really unfortunate just because there's so much out there. And kind of, as we said, with going back to Bloodlines, where it's so easy to burn your community's goodwill, and hopefully it eventually gets there and people are open to it. But yeah, it's a shame to hear about the technical difficulties because
Yeah.
otherwise, this is something that I can see a lot of people dumping in hours into, just like its predecessor. But Matt,
Yeah.
hopefully those fixes are coming soon, and hopefully it gets that fun mod support that you're looking forward to. And Matt, I have no other mistakes to explore for this week. Matt,
Uh-huh.
still haven't unpaused my Migi and Dolly episode. The cringe is
Nice.
still too hard. I think anime wise, I just started the 6th season of My Hero Academia. That starts off heavy. I just finished episode 1 of season 6, and they are going into it fast. But other than that, Matt, Halloween week, as we said, coming up, any mistakes that you would want to check out for next week?
I believe Jaren next week, early November. I can't remember which day exactly. WarioWare is going to be dropping, I believe.
Right.
So I'm definitely going to be grabbing that.
Okay.
Jaren, I'm still kind of pissed that Fantasy Life, the girl who steals time, doesn't have a release date yet. I hope that
Matt,
doesn't become vaporware.
me too. I'm really looking forward to that. Sounds fun. I think on my end, we have the Nikkei first anniversary coming up this week. I believe there's going to be a mini game that I'll potentially talk about next week as well. And I'm still trucking along with Cyberpunk, Matt. I was talking to our friend Julian, and he said, really need you to start playing Phantom Liberty because that is some great gaming experiences to be had. And I'm still doing my main storyline stuff, Matt, but maybe one day we can get to our Phantom Liberty spoiler cast. One day, Matt. Not next week though.
Yeah.
Not next week. But Matt, I think that's everything I have, and I guess that means that it has been the mistake zone for this week. Matt, I want to thank you as always for joining me this week and editing this podcast of mistakes, especially this episode, because peek behind the curtains, a lot of starts and stops here, Matt.
Jaren, I gotta, as always, thank you for hosting this episode.
Thanks, man. I want to thank Vampire Fangstraws. I want to thank Mineko. I want to thank Night Markets. I want to thank Cities. I want to thank Skylines. And I want to thank our friends who listen to us every week.
Yo, Jaren.
Yep. What's up?
Jaren, have you been watching any like coverage for Super Mario Bros. Wonder?
Matt, I feel like I'm going to pick up Wonder, I think, towards the end of the month.
Okay. I mean, Jaren, we're at the end of the month already.
Okay, sorry, the end of November.
But man, Jaren, I keep seeing Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and it makes me want to play Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but I don't know if I'm at the point where I've been spoiled too much about Super Mario Bros. Wonder
right.
to, get the wonder out of it.
I think the only Wonder content that I've consumed was just all the trailers we've seen in the Nintendo Direct. So I've heard a lot of good things about it and how it does take some interesting turns for the Mario franchise. But Matt, I've gone on record on the Mistake Zone and said I don't actually like platformers that much. So we'll see if Wonder is able to capture my attention. I plan to pick it up towards the end of November during the Shoppers Optimum, points redemption days for Black Friday. If I can't find a PlayStation 5, because Matt, Spider-Man looking pretty tempting right out. Matt, I know the ending to Spider-Man 2. I know the post-credit scene to Spider-Man 2. And yet I still want to, traverse in that game. I still want to experience the gameplay. And I think I'm heavily considering redeeming a bunch of Shoppers Optimum points towards a PlayStation 5 to be able to do so.
Yeah. And here I gotta wait probably another 2 years for them to drop it on PC.
Oh man, that who knows how different the Mistake Zone will be in those 2 years. But Matt, until then, please take it away.
This has been the Mistake Zone, and we're all out of squeezed fish.
That's such a bad mechanic.